In 2011, Oregon Governor John Kitzhaber set out on a years-long journey to improve the state's low-ranking graduation rate.
2025 is the year we've set to have 100% high school graduation in the state of Oregon.
But 13 years later,
well, we're not going to meet it.
Last week, we introduced you to OPB's Class of 2025 project. It's our effort to follow a class of kindergartners.
6 corners, 6 sides, it's a hexagon.
And 6 tables. And 6 hexagons.
On their journey all the way through high school.
Looking for your small blue cover on your name tag.
If you haven't heard it yet, check it out. The current graduation rate across Oregon is about 81%. That is 14 percentage points better than it was when this project started. But Oregon's new governor, Tina Kotek, has another goal in mind: 90% high school graduation rate by 2027. Critics wonder, should that be the end goal?
If we lose sight of 100% of our students need to complete high school with a diploma or a GED, and we settle for anything less than that, then once again, we let ourselves off the hook. And my question would be, which 10% are we not going to graduate? How are we deciding that?
Most of the students we've been following are about to enter their senior year of high school in the fall.
When I grow up, I want to be a brickmason.
When I grow up, I want to be a labor and delivery nurse.
When I grow up, I think I want to be an ultrasound tech. That, or I want to start my own business in construction.
So this week, we wanted to ask some of the tough questions raised by the reporting OPB has done over the last decade with this project. The biggest ones: why is Oregon's graduation rate still lower than other states, even after focusing on improving it all these years? And maybe more broadly, is even trying to get to 100% the right goal? If it's not, what is? Education reporter Elizabeth Miller is back with us this week to help answer those questions. From the newsroom of OPB, I'm Jen Chavez, and this is The Evergreen, a podcast about the place you call home. Liz, thank you so much for being here today. Hello.
Hi, Jen. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, of course. So let's start off with Oregon's ambitious education goal, which was to hit a 100% graduation rate by 2025. Can you place us back in 2011 for a minute? What sparked this huge goal from the state?
Yeah, I mean, at the time, Oregon's graduation rate was 68%, and that was very low. And a lot of states around the country were trying to figure out, like, how do we get our graduation rate? Other states set goals too. I mean, it was a thing, because when you think about graduating from high school, it just opens so many doors in terms of college, in terms of jobs, things like that. And so if you don't have a diploma or a GED, it might change your trajectory a little bit. And it's, to get a little technical for a minute, it's not just about 100% graduation. There was this other piece of it too. The main piece of it is called 40-40-20. And so the goal was by 2025, 40% of students were going to graduate and get a 4-year degree. 40% of students were going to graduate and get like a 2-year degree or, something like that, or an associate's. And then that 20% would have a high school diploma or equivalent. So it wasn't just getting students to graduation, but also getting them to that second piece, to that post-secondary part of education.
So this 100% graduation rate goal inspired OPB to follow a class of 2025 students until they graduate. Here's some of the kids when they were in kindergarten.
My name is Rashawn, and I am 7 years old. When I grow up, I want to be a football player.
My name is Ava, and I'm 7 years old. I want to be a teacher, an artist, and a ballerina.
And here they are at the end of junior year in high school.
So I'm Rashawn, and I'm a junior in high school. After I graduate, I want to go to college for a degree in architectural design to help me with like my construction, my carpentry, or just get straight into carpentry.
I'm Ava, I'm 17 years old, and I'm a junior at David Douglas High School. I feel really clear of what I want because I've always wanted to be a singer since I was little, even just singing along to my school assembly. Always been something I've wanted to do.
I feel like this is such a unique project, the way that you've stuck with these students for so long. Why has it been important to follow a group of students on their journey to senior year?
I think something that I really like to do in my reporting and in journalism, and I'm really glad that my editor, Rob Manning, who started this project, feels the same way, is we talk about numbers so much in education, what percent graduate, what percent does this, but those there are real students behind those numbers.
People.
Exactly. And I think focusing on these students and their stories, just we can hear from them directly, which has been an interesting journey in itself. When students are 6 and 7, they're not saying as much as they're saying now at 17, but it uses their voices. We hear from their voices. We hear what it's like to be a student right now. But I think the other piece of it is that it kind of complicates the narrative of that whole idea of the 100% graduation goal. Because while students may want to graduate, there are all kinds of circumstances that sometimes stand in the way of that. And you don't really see that in how many percent graduated and how many percent didn't, kind of thing.
Right, yeah. So the state's new governor, Tina Kotek, has set a different goal to meet now.
I call for increasing our graduation rates over the next 4 to 5 years so more students are graduating and have a pathway.
That's Kotek at a gubernatorial debate in 2022 in Medford, Oregon. We know Kotek's goal is to hit 90% by 2027. So how do she and the state plan to accomplish that goal?
That's something we're still trying to figure out, Jen.
Okay.
We'll get there. Back in the fall, I worked on the story about the governor's new goal, and I reached out for an interview, but she was unavailable. So I asked via email, how do you plan to get to this goal? And what I heard from her office was more about the state's focus on early literacy, which, getting students to read in elementary school, which is very, very important, obviously. And it also, sets students up for success early, so maybe they have a better chance of graduation later on. But I didn't really get much about that high school piece of it. And when you think about this new goal, 90% by 2027, the class of 2027 are already freshmen. Like, they're wrapping up their freshman year. So they're past early literacy. All that to say, stay tuned. We're still trying to figure that out. But I think there's definitely a question to answer there.
Yeah, and that's exactly what I thought when you first mentioned that focus on early literacy. It's like, well, those students are going to be graduating potentially
class of 2030.
Yeah, exactly, or later. So, and getting 90% of students to graduate from high school would be quite an accomplishment. But is that the benchmark that politicians should hope for?
Yeah, this whole project, this whole last, year or so of the project, we've been interrogating the goal and the whole project in general. It's getting a little meta. And so I've been asking folks who work in education, what do they think about this goal? What do they think about 90%? What do they think about 100%? Because they're the people who are actually on the ground working with students. And so one of the people I've talked to is Carla Gay, who is the Executive Director of Innovation and Partnerships in the Gresham Barlow School District. And Carla has a lot of experience working with students, and it's important for her that students have opportunities and also the support that they need while they're in high school. And so when I asked her about this new 90% goal, she wondered about that other 10% and who gets left behind.
I think if there's a benchmark of okay, by this date we want to get to this, but by this date we want to get to 100%, it at least still holds that aspirational goal that 100% of our students matter and that 100% of our students deserve our very best to get to a high school diploma or GED, despite different pathways and experiences that they have.
And that's something that I've heard echoed from educators, 100% is super ambitious, but it's a goal worth shooting for.
You also recently spoke with former Oregon Governor John Kitzhaber, who came up with a 100% goal by 2025 in the first place years ago. So did he have suggestions on what Oregon needs to do now to improve the state's high school graduation rate?
Yeah, I think he's also curious, what is the plan to get there? How do we get there? And, that's about putting money and policy where the goal is. And on top of that, it's not just money. It's let's follow the money and make sure that it's going to what it's supposed to and then changing course if it's not.
But, the K through 12 number drives the budget debate. And so it did in 1979. It still does today. And it is a number without a context. They take what we spent last year and roll it up and never asked is the way we spent money last year getting us where we want to go?
And if you've been paying attention to education news in Oregon recently,
which of course we all have been,
as you should,
yes,
the state schools budget has been getting a lot of attention because you have school leaders across the state saying it's not enough. We need more. Students need help. But one part of that conversation that, obviously Governor Kitzhaber wants folks to pay attention to is, where is that money going?
Mm-hmm. I do want to note that Oregon has made steady progress in the last 10 years. There's been a 14.9 percentage point increase in graduation rates since 2011 when Kitzhaber first announced this goal. That's according to a June 2023 report from the Everyone Graduates Center at Johns Hopkins University. So why does Oregon continue to have a lower graduation rate than other states?
Yeah, it's a really complicated question. And thank you for pointing out the growth, because I think that's also important. There's a lot of hay made about we're not at 100%. We're, 19 percentage points away from that. But there has been growth. But I think while Oregon has been growing and raising its graduation rate, so has so many other states. And I don't think it's completely realistic to imagine Oregon is going to reach number one when not every other state, but there are a handful of other states that are closer to 100% than we are. Mm-hmm. So, it'd be great to see every state reach 100%. To answer it plainly, everyone else is working on this too.
Yeah. A moment ago, we asked is 90% the right goal? Is 100% high school graduation rate the right goal? Yes. To the degree that you can answer all these very difficult questions that I keep asking you.
No. I think, again, these are questions that we are digging into that is that makes this project so exciting, because we're not only, talking to these students and hearing about their lives, we're also thinking about, okay, how do we measure success? How do we tell if the state's doing well enough, if students are doing well enough, if everybody's doing okay? It's important for 100% of students to graduate. But it's also worth noting what we're learning and finding out. And what some of us, some people already know, especially people who work in schools, is that sometimes it takes students more than 4 years to graduate, or sometimes they decide a GED is more suited to them. It's not like a black and white thing. And there are other goals that folks in education are looking at. How ready are students for college? How ready are students for a career? Do they know what they need to know by the time they graduate? Are they ready to graduate? And those things are, not as easy as 100% graduation, but they're also really important points to keep track of.
Right. They're less tangible, but may actually tell us more about students' actual individual journeys. Coming up after a short break, how graduation rates don't tell an individual student's story. Graduation rates are only one data point. They often only tell a small part of the school, district, or state's story. They don't tell the story of the individual student. But Liz, you and OPB Education editor Rob Manning have captured the journey of 27 students from kindergarten to senior year. Some struggle with attendance.
I haven't been showing up in school and stuff.
Others face disciplinary actions.
I guess a kid brought an airsoft gun to school. They were shooting a bunch of kids in the cafeteria.
And then there are students who find another path.
I wanted to graduate early. I was thinking about it my sophomore year, and I kind of just want to get myself out there to start working, especially with how the economy is now.
Graduation is often kind of viewed as the first step on the path to adulthood. But does the state keep track of students' next steps after they graduate? And should they?
Yeah. I think with the original intent of the 100% graduation, going back to that 40-40-20, that was definitely one of the intents. We want to see where they go. We want to make sure we're following through and building Oregon's workforce, if students stay here, which a lot of them do. But people like Carla Gay at Gresham Barlow think there should be even more information collected, not just a 4-year graduation rate, not just a 5-year graduation rate, which the state does collect, but even more than that.
We really need to be doing a 5 and a 6 and a 7 and an 8 until they age out of our system at 21, so that we're telling a much more nuanced story of the pathways that students take. And in an ideal world, it wouldn't just be until they age out at 21, but then what is their next step beyond their graduation? So if they take 5 years and they get a GED, how are we measuring their post-secondary enrollment and telling that whole story?
You know, talking about this whole project, I'm having serious flashbacks to the end of my junior year, the beginning of my senior year in high school, and what that was like. It was a time unlike any other in my life, I think. So the class of 2025 is entering their senior year in the fall. How are they feeling?
So many feelings. So many feelings. There's excitement, there's nervousness, there's just like fear about the unknown. Like you don't know. Like one student we talked to, he was just like, I'm so used to being on a schedule, and then after next year, like I don't know. Like he's got a routine. He's been going to school for so many years.
Do you feel like you'll miss this time? You'll miss high school?
Definitely. I definitely will think I'll miss the simplicity of it, because high school, I was just on a schedule. I knew things that I had to get done. Whereas when I graduate, I don't really know what's coming next.
So I think things will really like set in this summer. I mean, it's the summer between junior and senior year. It's kind of your last summer of, knowing what you're doing. Not necessarily.
No, I know exactly what you mean. It's like you hear from your parents what life after school is like, but you can't conceptualize it until you're like, oh,
it's
here
happening.
I am in college, or oh, here I have my first job or something like that. I totally know what you're talking about.
Yeah, a lot of, to answer your question, they are feeling a lot of feelings right now. And I mean, to the point where we're asking them, like, how do you feel about senior year? And they're just like, I'm scared. But at the same time, a lot of students are just ready to get out.
Yeah, many things in life are simultaneously terrifying and exciting.
Every day.
Yes. And Liz, you, my friend and colleague Liz Miller, have personally been following the class of 2025 for about 5 years now, since they were in the 6th grade. And your editor, Rob Manning, has been there since they were in kindergarten. You even followed these students on their first day of high school.
All the people with their hands up close, every other junior student at David Douglas High School is not here today. It is a non-school day for juniors.
Aw.
I've never heard that before.
I love it. How are you feeling right now? How are you feeling now that the class of 2025 project is on its final stretch after you've spent years like getting to know these students as people?
Okay, that clip made me like a little emotional.
Oh, that's okay.
Yeah, I don't know. I'm like, is it because I was so awkward?
I get emotional about how awkward I am as well. So this is a safe space.
Yes, sorry. No, but I don't know. It feels surreal for sure. I mean, even some of the parents we talk, like I was just talking to Anais's mom, and she was just like, I can't believe that they're about to graduate. And I was like, me neither. And, she's going to be crying. Rob's going to be crying. I mean, if I'm crying listening to this random cut of tape, I'm probably going to be crying. But no, it's really exciting and amazing. And just, I think we're just all really grateful to the students and the families and all the people that like basically let us hang out with them. Yeah, it feels a little surreal that they're all, getting to this final year. And it's just like, as a journalist, like you don't get chances to do things like this often. I mean, it's a wild idea to start that Rob had years ago that I'm surprised OPB's letting us do it, and thanks OPB. But yeah, it's just a really crazy experience. And so I'm not quite, I don't think it's set in that it's over yet. And even parents are like, are you going to check on them in like 5 years? Are you going to start someone asked us like, are you going to start over with a new class? And we're like, no. No, but let's finish this one first.
Yeah.
So yeah, just excited to see how things shake out, and excited, to hopefully get all the families and students together next year.
So cool. I love this project so much. Liz, thank you so much for coming into the Evergreen to talk about it.
Yeah, and we have so many other people at OPB who have worked on this. It's not just me and Rob.
Yes, absolutely. Shout out to everyone at OPB who's had their hands in the Class of 2025 project. That was OPB education reporter Elizabeth Miller. You can find links to Liz's coverage of the Class of 2025 in the show notes and OPB's Class of 2025 podcast. Take a listen to our episode from last week when Liz gave us a window into the Class of 2025 students' lives. Thank you for listening to The Evergreen, another podcast from OPB. If you're here listening right now, you are a part of our new podcast family. And we want to shout out some of our lovely listeners who have been leaving such kind comments about our show online. Thank you so much. Metalhead1, by the way, love your username, left us a comment on Apple Podcasts saying, quote, "Finally, a pertinent local podcast regularly churning out interesting stories about our community in the Pacific Northwest," end quote. Thank you so much for saying that. That is so nice, Metalhead1. And by the way, our editor, Sage, says she's going to add pertinent to her business card. So thanks for that, too. No Vampires 2023 left us a comment on YouTube about our recent episode about a Supreme Court case out of Grants Pass, Oregon. It centers around whether cities can punish people for living outdoors if there's no other place for them to go. Their comment says, quote, "Any one of us could have our lives ruined and end up homeless in the blink of an eye. Think it through, people. How would you want to be treated? And what help would you want? This makes my blood boil," end quote. Thank you so much for sharing your thoughts on this issue with us. Lastly, YouTube user Susan Smart 8086 checked out our episode highlighting some of our At Work With interviews. It's a series where we follow people with unique jobs, including a Multnomah County bridge tender. They said, quote, "The Hawthorne Bridge was the first bridge I drove over when I was learning to drive. Interesting that it's manned 24/7, end quote. And yes, I agree. That is a very interesting fact. Thank you all again for sharing your memories and reflections with us. I am always so happy to hear from y'all. And you can help us grow by leaving a review just like the ones that you heard on your favorite podcast app, including YouTube. Follow us there and hey, tell your friends. Mia Estrada produced this episode and our technical director is Stephen Cray. Nolene Silva engineered the episode. The OPB podcast team also includes Julie Sabatier and Sage Van Wang. Elizabeth Miller, Rob Manning, and Kate McMahon did the interviews you heard. The music in this episode is from Audio Network. And don't forget, if you ever have a question for us, please reach out. You can hit us up by email at theevergreen@opb.org. I'm Jen Chavez. Catch you later.